All right, so today we're going to be installing a table on our swing arms. Today we're doing it on a dual swing arm setup, but all of our swing arms and the table setups are all really similar, so you shouldn't have to worry about much. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to start off with is we're going to start bolting our brackets down in place. We're just going to be using our small 1/2-inch button heads. They're going to come through all these small holes. We don't want to tighten them all the way down. We want to leave them a little bit loose. We also have the nylocks. They're going to go on the back side. And that's just a 5/32 Allen, and then I'm just using an 11mm to hold the nut on the back side. So we're just gonna real lightly, we still want it to be able to move a little bit, so we can kind of adjust it. Once those are in place, again, we want them to be able to still move around. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take our table. We have these small bushings. We're going to slide those into here. They're a nice tight fit. And the table is going to lay down this way. Now we got our 3/4 inch button heads. They're going to be the ones that slide through there on each side. And we do have our nylocks again. We're going to go onto the back side. Now we're going to go ahead and kind of tighten those down, and we're just going to want to just barely kind of squish that bushing together so it kind of holds in place, but it's not overly tight. Once we got the table kind of bolted in place on the brackets, brackets are still loose, so we can still kind of move this around a little bit. And now we're going to start putting our clip together that holds the table in place. So this is going to be the one that goes on the table. So we'll go ahead and it's just got some small Phillips is what holds that on with, again, some very small nuts. Now we got the other side that's going on the swing arm itself. The other side of our little clip here, it's going to slide into there. And then we have a small spacer that spaces the table up. So we got our 2 holes here. You know, and set that there. Again, same screws. Slide those in place and put our nut on the other side. We're going to leave that kind of loose because we want to be able to kind of adjust this table for where its locking position is. Kind of just get it nice and just snug to where you can still kind of move it around by just tapping it. So now we're going to go ahead and close the table down, see kind of where we're at. Kind of hold that in place. As long as we got it similar to where we want to put it in, there, we can go ahead and tighten our brackets down first, and then we'll go ahead and tighten these and adjust these as needed if they deem to be. All right, so once our brackets are now tightened down, we can close our lid back down, kind kind of see what position we got it in. Shift it just a little bit. I'm just going to use a flathead, and I'm just going to just lightly tap our bracket over just a little bit, just to kind of get it in place. And then we're going to move it in a tiny bit and back over. And we're going to tighten these down. With that open. And we close it again, should be good into place. All right, so we're gonna be making our cable ends for the tables. There's one of two ways that you can put the small ends on there. One is you can just slide it on there and crimp it with a pair of dikes, pair of pliers, something like that, and just tight enough. Crimp it across there. It should hold a decent amount of weight, but if you're planning on putting like your stove, you know, small stove, pots, things like that, anything over about 20 to 30 pounds, you're gonna wanna do it the other way, which is we're gonna actually be soldering these cables into the ends. So we'll get to doing that. First, we're gonna wanna cut these cables to length. They are cut a little bit long so that you can kind of adjust them as needed. But with a dual swing arm, I'm gonna cut these at 15.5 inches. So I'm just gonna measure it here. Right to my 15.5, I'm gonna cut it off. If you are installing a single swing arm with the large single table, your cable length ends are going to actually be 16 and 15/16 is the cable length that you're going to want to cut them to there. Once we have those cut, we're going to go ahead and just take off this plastic coating on the end. We're just going to use a knife to just kind of cut right through it. Now, you're going to want some way to hold this in place on your bench, something like that, so that we can take and heat it up. And we're going to put the solder in first, and then we're going to put the cable into it. So we got the solder inside. So now we're going to go ahead and heat it back up. Once it's heated back up, we can slide that right in there. Hold it for a second and let it cool down. Now that thing's solid. We're going to repeat that on the other ends of all four. Once we got our cables in length, we can go ahead and start putting them in here. We're just going to put our button head and our nylock. Set that one in there. We're going to put the one back in here on the table. Do the other side. Go ahead and tighten them up. You're going to want to leave these just barely loose, just so these cables can kind of have a little bit of movement in them. So they're not stuck in place, but just about like that, just so they can have that kind of movement in there. All right, so once everything's together, this will be going on the truck, but as we can see, it's got a nice sturdy table, and it's gonna fold right up, and these are just gonna hang out here. That's all it takes to install any of our tables on our stuff. Like I said before, they're all pretty universal as far as how they go together. I gave you the lengths for the dual swing arm cable length versus the single swing arm cable length. As long as you follow those, everything should go together pretty well. Everything should land pretty even, and that's all it takes.